Welcome back to Examining Xbox. This time we'll be looking at the Xbox One version of Forza Horizon 2, released in late 2014. This will be a review of the single player content in the game and won't cover the DLC add-ons such as the Porsche Pack or the Storm Island Pack. As someone who had never played a Forza Motorsport title and only ever struck a chord with open world racing games, I was pretty interested to try out the first Forza Horizon when it released for the Xbox 360 in 2012. I wound up falling in love with the game and pouring hours and hours into it, so naturally I was pretty excited when the sequel was announced by Playground Games, much like I'm excited for the third one releasing soon this year. But I only recently got a chance to try the Xbox One version. I played some of the Xbox 360 version from Sumo Digital, who I love, but I just kept getting distracted by other things and didn't pour too much time into it. Hence, this covering the Xbox One version, which for starters graphically is definitely an eye-catcher by comparison. So while the first game handled a sized-down version of Colorado, Horizon 2 boils down Italy and France to a world map that isn't too big to get lost in, but still manages to be bigger than the first game. Areas look great in this game, but it's the cities that really caught my eye in the daylight and even into the night. Everything especially manages to look wonderful after a nice rain, however, with some impressive lighting complementing a fun new weather system, all managing to run at a consistent 30 frames per second. I haven't sampled too many Xbox One games, but Horizon 2 is definitely one of my favorite looking games from this generation as a whole. So the main setup for this sub-series follows a kinda music festival called Horizon, that just also happens to attract a lot of car fanatics who all wind up racing in the surrounding areas. It's more of just an excuse for things to happen, and it's never really much of a focus. One thing I'm very happy that this sequel does, though, is scale back a bit of the quote, bro attitude the first game had. The first game just had a weird vibe about it, perhaps to help give it its own identity as the laid-back game against the more serious main Forza Motorsport series. Horizon 2 feels much more comfortable with its in-game cinematics, UI, and characters, doing a much better job of being itself without feeling like it's trying to be something it's not or well-equipped to be. It's still a little easy to scoff at sometimes, but it overall strikes a much better tone that I am very thankful for.
Immense driving. You just added another championship to your haul.
The actual racing, of course, feels fantastic. Driving on roads feels even better than in the first game, and Horizon 2 introduces a lot of off-road racing to capitalize on the European countrysides and vineyards, making for more visually distinct races, more variance in how cars control, and even more interesting racing scenarios. In terms of the raw gameplay, this game easily outdoes the first game, which had already set quite a high standard. The game structure, however, manages to feel a bit more repetitive and boring, unfortunately. The first game would always present to you a series of races requiring certain types of cars, but did so in a way that felt a bit more free. Horizon 2 feels a bit more rigid by pointing at a city on the map, telling you to go there, pick a type of race, then always presenting 4 races for you to win in a championship series. Once you win all 4, you road trip to another area and do 4 more races, rinse and repeat. Once in a while, the game will throw a curveball like racing against hot air balloons or a train at you, which are very welcomed. But these do ultimately just boil down to time trials, since it's more about getting to the goal within a certain time frame than using skill to beat a thinking, living opponent. At the end of the day, all of the core gameplay does boil down to just competing in races, but the first game had a way of giving you a little more illusion of freedom than this game's rigid 4-race structure. And granted, you can always break off from the assigned championship, I think, but you're still just going to wind up doing 4 races somewhere else. Now that said, there are a ton of races in this game. The game asks you to beat about 14 championships before partaking in the Horizon finale, which means winning about 60 individual races. When I did such, I looked at a completion screen and realized I was only about 10% finished with the game according to the stats. New to Horizon 2 are also some extra challenges called bucket list challenges, which pretty much temporarily hand you a car and some conditions, and have you meet a specific objective as an extra little thing to do. And there are about a couple dozen of these as well. If you fall in love with this game, it will reward you with hours and hours of content, which is fantastic. Speaking of rewarding, the game continues the trend of making you feel like you're constantly working toward completion and improvement, which is probably my favorite thing about the Horizon series. Every new road you travel gives you some experience points, leveling up lets you spin a wheel that rewards you with money or sometimes a new car. There's also a skill system that rewards you for every successful drift, burnout, airtime, pass, near misses, etc. String skills together without crashing and you get a multiplier for the points you earn, and these points contribute to a perk system that you can use to give yourself bonuses, like identifying cars you need to use the game's photo mode on, which also earns you money by the by, or giving you even more skill points for near misses. All of these things contribute to an addictive gameplay loop of consistent improvement and makes the game's racing feel even more worth it. Combining fantastic car control with these game systems is a major part of why the Horizon games work, and I'm so glad they struck gold with this formula and continued with it. I'll admit though that while I like that newly introduced perk system, I do miss how the first game used skill points as kind of a popularity meter, starting you off at a high number and encouraging you to work your way down to the number 1 popularity spot. And I also miss sponsor challenges from the first game, which would reward you with money for certain milestones like 500 drifts or 250 air jumps. The absence of those challenges aren't too glaring, but it was another nice incremental reward that helped make every action count and pushed you to try some racing techniques that were perhaps a little out of your comfort zone. So there are a whole bunch of cars in this game. I tried about 20 or 30 and they all felt pretty distinct from each other and sounded fantastic, making every new kind of race championship a fun, interesting challenge. I'm actually not that much of a car guy, I don't know that much about them, so I can't fully appreciate how the game lets you customize every aspect from under the hood to the exterior of the car, but what I can appreciate are the user-made custom decals. Check out this sick-ass ghost Pokemon car someone made. Or how about this Jurassic Park Jeep? That's great. Now, one thing I wasn't so fond of, though, was the way Horizon 2 presents cars when you're buying a new one for a championship series. It took me a while to find out that this little icon here means it's a download car, so while you may have enough credits to buy it, trying to purchase it will prompt you to pay actual money for the car, despite the game listing it as an affordable car. I can't filter these cars out via a menu option either, and it was honestly annoying to find that I had less options than I thought for championships due to the number of these cars. Now overall, there's a lot in the game, but this just makes it feel like there are much less than there actually are, and honestly it's a little annoying to have it reaching for your wallet. The world map is another aspect where I feel I should be more impressed than I am. It's definitely larger than the first game and features a bunch of nice scaled down versions of cities like Nice and Montalino, but the inclusion of off-road racing makes for a lot more spacious stretches of no road and subsequently more potential for less memorable spots. Now, I'll definitely remember the fields of purple flowers and some of the oceanside vistas, for example, but I actually felt like Horizon 1's Colorado was a more fun area to explore. Can't quite put my finger on it. An extra annoyance is what the game decides you can and can't run through. Certain trees and electricity poles are absolutely fine to plow through, but others will completely stop you in your tracks. Considering the game rewards you with skill points for bowling into these things, it feels a little counterintuitive for some to arbitrarily stop you and ruin skill chains. It makes sense that you can't plow through certain trees that are very tall, but after running metal light poles over on the highway, it just manages to all feel a little inconsistent. Now, much like the first game, boards that give you experience points or reduce the cost of fast travel are hidden across the map to find, and there are also 10 barn find cars that you search for in the highlighted area, and once you do find it, the cars are restored and you gain access to them for free. These are still great inclusions, but again, I just didn't have as much fun looking for these boards since I just didn't have as much fun with the open world. And the licensed in-game music is also a bit subjective. I found myself sticking mainly to the more electronic skewed stations, but still encountering a fair few songs I didn't particularly care to hear. This is a pretty minor area that I think the first game did a better job in, but I'll give the game points for its classical music station, and if nothing else you can always just turn the radio off, so it's not that big of a deal anyway. Now, I'd love an option to connect to Amazon Music and pull from my Prime library, but that's just wishful thinking. Overall, while I didn't think the game hit every high bar set by the first game, I still had a fantastic time with Forza Horizon 2, spending a little over 30 hours with the game before I had to return it. It is absolutely a worthwhile sequel with a very positive vibe, though I'd recommend playing the game in short bursts due to that 4-race structure that I mentioned. Now, if you're looking to jump into the Forza Horizon series for the first time, the third game comes out a few weeks after this video releases and will likely be fantastic, so it's probably safe to assume you can start there if you'd like. but I'd actually recommend starting with the first game, which will soon be backwards compatible with Xbox One, then going to 2, and then likely to 3 if it's also quality, and with some generous spacing between each game to help avoid burnout. The Horizon games are incredible open world racing games, and so far, each one is absolutely worth your time and money. I'm MykonosFan, this has been Examining Xbox, and thank you very much for watching. Though really, my favorite thing to do is drive the Enzo Ferrari, blast some Outrun 2 music, and pretend that Sega has finally been benevolent enough to grant me a modern-day Outrun 3. But until that day actually arrives, I'll just have to keep dreaming.